My name is Yunho Jin, and I'm an assistant professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, Shenzhen, where I teach marketing and also do research on the same subject. I have been here for 3 years, and although I'm originally from South Korea.
I'm Phil Stout. I've been involved in education in China for a bit over a decade, although my education career started when I was actually in the US as an undergrad. I was working in my school's library to help peers and classmates or whoever improve their writing or their reading comprehension, things like that. And then once I finished my classes, I was working in a local middle school doing pretty much the same thing. And then it was when I moved to China that I realized that education really was going to be a really passionate career for me. So then I got my master's and then eventually my doctorate at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. But don't worry, I won't make you call me Dr. Stout. Phil is just fine.
I'm Jay Robertson and I'm part of the Nine Rivers Distillery team. Blessed or probably even cursed with the title of CEO. I'm personally not really into titles and never really wanted it, but apparently every company needs a CEO, and I ended up drawing the short straw. I've been involved in China on and off now for about 25 years, with quite a lot of that time in the alcohols industry. And of course, the last few years focused on bringing the Nine Rivers Distillery dream to reality.
How did I meet Jay? That's a good question. I didn't really know much about Jay at the very beginning. I first heard about him when I was getting pizza at a restaurant in Shenzhen, and some random guy pulled me into the whiskey group and he warned me not to say anything. Don't say a word inside this WeChat group until you know the lay of the land, so to speak. And I remember thinking how weird it was that I was being warned about the WeChat group. But I soon figured out why. Because if somebody said the wrong thing or had ice in a really good whiskey or had like a really ugly picture or something, Jay would just eviscerate this person inside the group. And that didn't scare me, actually. I'm kind of a lurker anyway. But just seeing him interact with people in that way and just give them this online verbal beatdown just made me really like the guy. And I eventually had the pleasure of meeting him in person, and he was completely different. He and I had a lovely conversation about otters, which I just thought was really funny.
One of the first people I got to know here in Shenzhen was Mr. Jay Robertson. Being a huge fan of whiskey, finding a reliable source for premium whiskey is high on the agenda of things to do when moving to a new country. And Jay was a name suggested to me by many people, so I got in touch with Jay, and the rest, as we say, is history.
But this video isn't about me, so let's not dwell on who has the biggest shoes or the fanciest business card. What matters is what we're doing as a company outside of the normal paper pushing and PowerPoint charts and making enough noise in the industry to be noticed. And what we're doing to make a difference. Throughout my time in China, there's always been two things that were quite obvious to me. That China's education system produces exceptional talent in what we call STEM subjects: science, technology, engineering, maths. And this makes sense because so many undergraduates in China all want to be scientists and doctors and engineers and software developers and things like that. You know, after all, this is where China has moved into a globally dominant position and pretty much leads the world. Where the gaps are is the non-STEM subjects, you know, the arts, humanities, social sciences, and all of these creative subjects that feed into marketing, you know, whether it's graphic design and branding, or all the way through to marketing strategies and the theories that underpin it.
So how Jay and I got together in terms of this collaboration between Nine Rivers Distillery and the Chinese University of Hong Kong isn't really all that interesting or surprising. It just was kind of this natural, organic conclusion to what the both of us are just really good at. Jay knows the business really well. I understand the education aspect. So Jay sent me a message asking if I was interested, and I obviously said yes, because I just thought this was such a unique and interesting opportunity. So Jay had an idea for what he wanted to have happen. Like, these are students who we are kind of responsible for guiding. And so I was helping with the curriculum, project, rubric, that kind of thing, in order to make sure that the students not only fully understood what was expected of them, but probably, more importantly for them, how we were going to assess them.
Well, I got to know about the 9RD, or Nine Rivers Distillery, through Jay's and his whiskey groups. And one night, I normally work really late at night, as does Jay. I ended up chatting with Jay about his opinions on the alcohols industry in China, and specifically Jay's views on marketing. Those that know Jay will agree. He has a really unique take on marketing for his companies. So the conversation became really interesting, and I quickly realized that there was something really solid thinking about Jay's unconventional approaches. Within no time, we were talking about how Jay could share his insight with some of my students as a guest lecturer. The guest lecturer concept turned into a real class within my course, and here we are 3 years later, after 2 really good years. Those years later, with Jay actually leading a project for 2 classes, and that is responsible for 30% of the final marks for my students.
I don't want to use too many cheesy cliches because they're boring, but it really is one of these win-win situations for us, because we share our knowledge and experience and give the students an opportunity to work on projects that reflect a real working environment. But it then gives us access to working with students that we can essentially cherry pick. In both of the first 2 years that we were working with the university, the top students from each year, we actually offered them employment opportunities to be a part of Nine Rivers Distillery. This year, with us being involved in 2 classes, we are feeling really, really confident that some of the students are going to end up being a part of the Nine Rivers Distillery journey and contributing to what we're hoping to build over the next few years.